Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Exchange podcast at Empire Alliance. I'm Revan, heroic Sith Raid conqueror and captain of ship Vanguard, and I'm joined here by Mikey, the great Jedi Master and strategist whose name is known far across the reaches of the Outer Rim and wild space, fellow captain of the ship Vanguard, and fellow heroic Sith Raid conqueror. And then we have Chowder Thickness, who's thicker than Porkins, captain and guild leader of the ship Reaper.
Well, hello
Hello,
there,
everyone.
I think
How are you guys doing tonight?
doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Living the dream, you know?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I think Revan put it out there pretty good, but to kind of build off it a little bit, I am Chowder's Thickness. Each of us, we have a special place in our heart for Galaxy of Heroes, and that's kind of why we're making this podcast. I have been playing this game for about the past year now, been enjoying it, and you know what, we recently got some pretty exciting news, so I'm excited to talk about that today. What about you guys?
Absolutely.
Definitely. I've been playing this game for what, about, I want to say a year and 8 months or so. So I've been playing for a pretty long time, but not one of those since launch guys. I know, Mikey, you're pretty close to from the game launch.
Yeah, fairly close, actually. I remember I started maybe about 2 years ago. I'm not sure how old the game is. Is it around that or a bit older?
I think it's
a
bit before
November,
Force
December
Awakens.
2015.
Oh, okay. So not quite game launch, but yeah, I've been quite experienced, anyways. Yeah, I joined this alliance actually right when the tank raid came out, and my guild struggled, and we couldn't accomplish the heroic setting, so that's when I joined the alliance. So been with the alliance for a long time, actually, and I'm glad to be here.
Quick thing too, we keep mentioning this alliance for anyone who's listening outside of the alliance and keep wondering why we mention it. We're actually in essentially a guild of guilds. We have about what's it now, 10 guilds all in a single Discord
I believe
chat?
So.
We had they're each named after a ship from Legends
The
and
Star Wars
Canon,
Galaxy.
all Empire ships. So you have Reaper, you have Ravager, there's Vanguard, Devastator, you have the Superstar
Executor.
Destroyer, Eclipse, you have the Executor.
Vengeance.
So it's a neat little way
Chimera.
for us to distinguish each guild from one another.
All the remaining part of one.
Yeah, that's true. So that's just a little tidbit for anyone who's listening now and doesn't quite know what we're talking about. So I think introductions out of the way. Are we ready to move on to the news?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We got some pretty exciting news yesterday when we found out that we're going to be finally getting some mod management, and definitely mod slicing looks interesting and hopefully is a better alternative instead of 5 and 6 and 7 dot mods. And then a bunch of Knights of the Old Republic tunes, which I can say myself I'm particularly excited for, especially one female Jedi in particular.
Yeah, the one Revan always had his sights on. You know, had
Who
to
could
convince
that
him
be?
to come back to the light. I think it's Karth. It's Karth, right?
Yeah, Karth. I believe it's Karth.
Hell.
It's a dude.
Go to
It's that one Jedi companion that you could get, but no one. Everyone always killed him in that little garden there, and then went back and realized, oh, that was the other companion.
Yeah.
What was it? Juhani. That was their name.
Yeah, Juhani, the cat girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually saved her.
I was gonna kill her the first time until I found out she was the other companion, and I was like, oh well, I can't have that middle slot just empty.
I mean, you could, just, grind it.
So what do you guys think about the game's state of the game right now, currently? I'm just curious what your thoughts are about the game.
Well,
Well,
uh, if you don't mind, Revan, I'd like to go first on this.
sure, go for it.
So, we weren't recording the other day, but Mikey and I here had a pretty interesting conversation about what we thought was coming, and this was actually before, I think, like a day or two before the KoToR 2, the KoToR tunes were announced, and I was speculating that there might be something big coming for droids, the droid faction. I know there was a video put out by Anality 101. He was saying something might be coming, and I kind of agreed with him. And while it's not droid-related tunes
Per se.
we do have T3M4 coming in, which he is a droid, and recently, the past year, really, we've had a lot of really good droids added. BB-8. After BB-8, there was Imperial Probe Droid. IG-88 got reworked, so he works pretty well with Probe Droid now, if you have both those Zetas. And then L3, I think, is a bit of a diamond in the rough for droids. I don't think a lot of people actually know what she really brings to the table for the droid faction, but it's a lot of interesting stuff here.
Definitely a lot of potential, and R2 actually only came out about last May, so he's you could really say that he's fairly newish too, because BB-8 came out like 3 or so months after R2.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's very fresh.
There's a lot of really good droids, but the droid faction really just hasn't, it used to be one of the more prominent factions in the game.
Well, I mean, it was complete meta at one point, dominating.
T3M4, depending on his kit, one might, be the guy who puts it all together as far as droids go and really makes them relevant again.
I think that the only thing droids are really lacking is a really good leadership ability, because, I mean, any way you look at it, so BB-8 helps droids at the beginning of a battle. He grants each droid 8% turn meter at the start of a battle for each droid ally present, so that's pretty good. R2 is going to be gaining extra protection, I believe, from each droid, and then if you have a Zeta on Number Crunch, then he's going to be giving 10% of various stats to droids.
Definitely.
So if you have that, and you have IG-88, one of the problems with IG-88 right now is he is a really squishy character. And if you have a full droid team, you're going to be giving him a decent amount of protection. Still be pretty squishy, but it's nice to have. Chopper. I don't really see Chopper fitting into a droid squad, especially if T3M3 really brings something to the table. But having the assist and buff chance with his attack. And then, like I was saying to L3 earlier, the meta right now is super, super debuff heavy, especially if you're running that Pulp team. I know I personally, that's the team I'm running. Palpatine, no Treya for me, unfortunately. Got to put Vader in there. But, Tenacity Up really shuts that team down. And if you have L3... her level 8 ability, I have the text right here, is going to heal all Scoundrel and Droid allies for 50% of her max health, and grant all prepared allies Tenacity Up for 2 turns. If any other allies are prepared, reduce this ability's cooldown by 1. So, it's unfortunate.
That could kind of break the current meta if used properly and they get a really good leader.
It could. The only worries I have for L3 is she's pretty much only going to be giving Tenacity Up to herself, which is nice because when you use her special, she's going to be taunting, so you can't stick any debuffs on her while she's taunting. But you know,
So especially with Vader's Culling Blade, if she can put Tenacity up, and then he goes to, Vader tries to give turn meter to his team, but there are no debuffs because of Tenacity up, that would really, significantly help.
I wish,
especially at least
it didn't
AI.
give Tenacity up to all prepared allies. I wish it was all just
ally.
Yeah. Because
we have to see, though, what the new droid does. We don't know if it has a leadership. We don't know its kit. So if it has that leadership that you said that they're missing, this could very well fix the team. But don't forget about JTR. JTR's got a solid droid synergy and a good leadership. The only problem is resistance.
Don't rule out my man HK47 getting a rework with these new tunes. Because, usually when they give a faction a pass, they give rework. So I wouldn't be surprised with him being the login tune. He might get some love, and they might make his leadership a little more relevant.
I just don't know if it's confirmed, though. I just think that they did that as a hint that there's going to be a KoToR, some sort of release with KoToR, just as an insider tip. I don't really think they're going to touch HK for a while.
Yeah, I don't see them touching HK, especially since they're releasing 5 new characters, which is an entire team in and of itself.
Right.
I'm not going to discredit it, though. I would really like it if they brushed up on HK, because, boy, does he need it. You can see how dated his kit is. You have a 25% chance to inflict one of... there's a 25% chance on 4 debuffs to be applied with his special, and then his basic will deal physical with a 55% chance to gain offense up, and then his unique was good back then, but nowadays, being able to revive, but not that much health, and it's not even guaranteed. It's not that great. True. And then
basically a couple of Zetas could fix the problem.
Yeah. Meatbag mayhem isn't causing any mayhem for the meatbags. That's just an injustice.
Yeah, needs more death for the meatbags.
He needs more damage. Imagine if Meatbag Mayhem put an AoE sort of a death mark ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can you imagine how that would be if it was AoE Deathmark?
Probably not Deathmark, but an ability sort of like it that really increased the damage a tune would take per hit.
I think they should give him some synergy with target lock. It would make sense in a way. He's an assassin droid. Give him some synergy with target lock. Make him work with IG-88, another assassin droid, and probe droid. And really...
They should make him a bounty hunter and give him a contract thing. Well, because wasn't he a bounty hunter?
Oh no, he was an assassin droid particularly.
So was IG-88 though.
He
could have
fell
that.
into bounty hunting, as far as I know. HK never did bounty hunting, but it's interesting that you say that, because if you actually go in-game, and you know how you can search based on whatever you type in. If you type in bounty hunters, HK47 will pop up. I don't know if that's a remnant of a old tag for him or something else, but a little fun fact for you there.
Well, that just means that it's possibly in the making.
Oh no, it's been around for a while, I think.
Oh, I see.
Maybe it's in the game.
That's what I think. I think it was in an early build they gave him a tag and then took it away.
Sure.
Because
maybe we should talk about what Revan wanted to know about, or say about the current status of the game.
Yeah.
Well,
what were you gonna say, Revan?
Probably my biggest frustration with the game right now is the update to ships, and I know it's a really hot topic, and it's it really can fluster a lot of people. Some people like it, though I really don't understand why. The two biggest complaints, I actually do like the idea behind reinforcements, making it more strategic. I really like that idea.
Bringing my boy Plo Koon into the meta.
But The two biggest frustrations, they made Geonosians, really looking at so far, the two metas that we're looking at are Biston, Vader, and Biggs under a Tarkin, and the three Geonosians with Akbar, and your first reinforcement is usually going to be Biggs. But the Geonosians are terrible as a faction, their ships were terrible, not many people were building them up, not to mention gearing them really high. And then it's like, boom, now they're meta. And, if you want to keep up, buy these really expensive packs. And
it's kind of how this game works, though.
In the meantime, they nerfed Reaper, which we had all just spent money on. And
I just got him to 5-star.
I had just recently gotten him to 7-star, and it's like, boom, nerf. Nope, he's still serviceable, but not as good as he was. And I think that if they had done that rework but kept it 5-on-5, it would have been a little better.
Yeah.
I would have rather that instead of nerfing tunes, they just made the other ships that weren't as good more viable, even if it was just from a reinforcement standpoint.
Do you think it was like a bait and switch? You think it was like a bait and switch tactic, with the Reaper and the Geonosians? Like you see this character?
I don't think it was too bait and switch because, ships, since it came out, pretty much the only big meta change to ships that you've had was really the addition of Thrawn. I know some people will say...
That really was the only time. It went from Tarkin really being the viable lead, the viable capital ship, and then Thrawn immediately became the Chimera, became the ship to have.
Which,
and heck, a lot of people are just still starring that ship up, and it's like, well, now the Chimera still remains really good, but I would probably say that Akbar and Tarkin are probably a little better considering what the best ships are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't even look at like Biston and Scarif Rebel Pathfinder's gear requirements. Last I looked, like Pathfinder needs like friggin' 600 Carbantes, and it's just like, oh my gosh, no.
It's like Kenobi.
Not
2.0.
another Kenobi.
Sunfax.
Not another
oh my
Kenobi.
God, Sunfax gear grind is terrible. He's pretty much almost as bad as Kenobi, I think.
It's because he's a tank. A lot of Carbantes and those what is it, stun guns? I think so.
Stun guns. Ugh.
Any tank-like character will have a lot of that. But this is how I see it. If a character has a lot of difficult gear to acquire, more than likely it's a good character. That's just like GK, for example. Like, how many Carbantes? Like, look at his health pool, right?
Yeah, that's true. I love my Gear 11 GK. He's nice, and I hated myself while I was gearing him up. It was just, because Carbantes, that grind is so terrible. The stun gun grind is terrible.
Yeah.
Now to me, it doesn't seem as bad. I'm not really gearing up a lot of tank characters. Now the thing that's getting me is stun cuffs, but that's how it is for everyone. Yeah. It's either Carbante stun cuff or stun guns, and then the occasional droid collar. But
if you're an early game player, it's going to be those fusion furnaces. There's always something that just kills you.
It depends on what you get raids. It's all dependent on your raid rewards.
Yeah.
Some people get a lot of furnaces. Some people don't. So it just depends. I think the best change they ever made to this game was the shard shop. Where you transfer additional shards from a character that's 7-star or ship.
Yeah.
And now you can purchase gear. That was the best possible change they've made. Like, for example, I maxed out my Galactic War characters. Now, endlessly, every day I get the 1,200, a Galactic War currency. And I can transfer those into the shard shop. That's 15 shards a day, just from that, right? So that's where I'm getting my stun guns, and I just wait, because I know like Carbantes will show up, stun guns will show up, and that's where I will get that.
That's where I get a lot of my stun guns, the sort of rare gear, and then they have the gold gear that pops up. A lot of the gold gear you need to get from 10 to 11 and 11 to 12. The gold eyes.
The only-
God,
The only,
those are.
Yeah.
the only update I would argue is better is the ×4 speed.
Oh
It
yeah,
makes-
that was the
it makes
biggest
playing so
update
much
ever.
faster. It makes
Yeah.
playing so much faster because, like, instead of can you imagine when in the Xeris era with Kenobi, if there wasn't the ×4, people were already timing out with that. Can you imagine how bad it would have been
I mean,
if it was?
they were timing out even with the 4 times.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Oh God, I'm glad that meta's not around anymore.
I used to
yeah,
run
that
that
meta
meta.
was frustrating.
Why don't we dive into the meta currently and what our future thoughts are of the next meta? What do you guys think?
All right. Well, to start off, I'm happy with this meta. I know a lot of people aren't, especially people like you, Mikey, running that
Yeah.
JTR team. Sorry, buddy.
Yes,
But I
that's
love
okay.
it because early on, pretty much a couple months into me playing this game, I got like Count Dooku and Maul and all these, Sith characters, and I just saw Emperor Palpatine's legendary event, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna run Sith. And then I saw Nihilus was in the game, and I'm a KoToR fan and KoToR 2 fan, so I am ashamed to admit this, but I spent money getting those Nihilus shards. I think I got like 20 of his shards from early on in the game you're like getting hundreds upon hundreds of crystals, and you think it's gonna last forever. So I was just blowing it on all the chromium packs. I ended up getting like 20 or 30 Nihilus shards from those, bought the rest, and I ran Nihilus lead with pretty much all Sith.
Yeah.
And then after that I ran Rebels for a while, and then when this new Sith meta came around, it came around pretty much end of February, March, when Scion was around.
Changed everything.
Yeah, changed everything, but my Palpatine was already at least gear 10. Vader was around that gear too, because I was using him for ships. I was running Thrawn lead since November, between November and when Scion came out, the Thrawn Troopers. So, he was already high up in gear, so there's these 3 guys already done. I think my Nihilus was only like gear 8 or 7, but, we used him and Palpatine and my all-Sith team. So when they released Scion, I was pretty much set, and I almost had a Zeta ready to go. So as soon as I got that Zeta, I just threw it on Palpatine's leadership, and I was climbing through the ranks. Around that time, I was having trouble staying around, I think rank 1,000, maybe 1,500, and after Palpatine came out, I just dug down. Now I'm around rank 200. I know some people will scoff at that, but being a mainly free-to-play character who's only been around for a year or so, I think that's pretty good in my book. So I have to say,
I think it's very depends on your shard. Is it competitive, or if you have a lot of whales, it could be tough.
I think it's pretty competitive.
Sure.
But I'm happy. My team's all Zeta'd out, now Scion has his Zeta, Nihilus has his unique.
Scion Zeta is really underrated. It's thought pretty highly of, but even that is still so underrated. That Zeta is so good.
It's the difference between waiting an entire match to get held by hatred and then waiting...
Or getting it off in his second or third turn.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Revan? What do you think of the current meta?
Well, me, I actually think it's pretty good. I think that it's diverse. I would definitely prefer that Jedi were more of a part of it, because I would kind of like to see a Jedi-Sith clash. But there's many different Sith teams you can run, with variants of Thrawn or Tarkin.
Zal's back.
You can run Zal with Traya. There's a lot of teams there. Rex remains viable as ever.
Rex is just never gonna go away.
You can run so many different tunes under Rex between General Kenobi, Wampa, Talzin,
I don't even really think. I mean, his leadership is good, but I mean, it's that tenacity up. You know, it's not. It's tenacity up that can just be applied to everyone, and it's going to heal everyone no matter what. And then the fact you get turn meter, it's not a lot of turn meter. I think it's like what, about 8% turn meter.
7.5%.
So
it adds up though, because I mean 7.5% to everybody.
I'd say that's better because, especially in this meta, because this meta's pretty AoE heavy if you think about it.
Sure.
You have Vader's AoE, you have Sion's AoE, you have Nihilus's AoE, you have Palpatine's 2 AoEs. Though I don't think that the other one hits. So I think it
does
just
damage over time crit.
You know what? I don't know about that, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
I don't think it does. I think it just does.
It's a static
5%,
effect.
I think, health
is
what it does.
But,
that's interesting.
JTR still remains somewhat viable. It has its uses. It can still hang in there.
You can hang on offense, but defense, it's sometimes shaky.
Yeah.
You get that fracture on JTR, and it's done.
Over.
You throw in Probe Droid, and you're done. And I think Probe Droid is really starting to show his face more because more people have had time to work on their Imperial troopers.
You have and then you have Night Sisters, which are direct counter to the Jedi Training Raid Team. But then you have Imperial Troopers that directly counter Night Sisters.
My boys, Imperial Troopers.
Yeah,
my babies.
You have you have this. You do have a Jedi Team Rising with Yoda, but you really need very specific.
That's something I wanted to talk about. Cause
that's what I'm hoping for.
So this is something I kind of laugh about, and I'm curious on how these tags are going to actually work. So Bastilla is coming.
Bastilla.
Potato. She's coming out, and she's very clearly going to be tagged to Jedi. I'm curious to see if they're going to give her battle meditation, considering she had that before Grandmaster Yoda. But Grandmaster Yoda already has battle meditation. But
But couldn't they just use like a foresight mechanic? Because foresight is, in a sense, kind of what they're displaying as battle meditation. Like battle meditation, the ability, it just spreads foresight and tenacity, right?
Well, so in lore,
it's kind of like a foresight thing, right?
In lore, what battle meditation essentially is like filling your own troops with morale while demoralizing your enemies. So I imagine it's sort of being, almost like Illuminated Destiny in a way, like buffing all of your allies and then debuffing your enemies somehow. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. The thing I'm actually more interested though is because when they were when they posted on the forums that they were releasing all these tunes, they called Jolie Bindu a Jedi, which it's not actually 100% true. He's more a former Jedi. For those of you who...
he's more like a gray Jedi, kind of, because he kind of slipped away from the Order.
Yeah, he left.
He still has the values of like what a Jedi and the training and the learning and everything like that.
See, that's the thing I don't know, though, because going through KoToR, he talks about how he thinks that, like, part of what the Jedi say is correct, but he doesn't completely agree with it. I'm pretty sure in-game his wife was a Sith, and...
She joined with Exar Kun.
And so, he's not... And, it's one of those things, like, kind of with Visas Mar, is Visas Mar a Jedi? Like, yes,
not really.
No, maybe...
she becomes a Jedi, but she's not shown as a Jedi in any of the games.
But you guys have to consider the fact that in this game, they use timeline-based characters. So the stage of which they're showing Visas Mar, they don't have to display a Jedi tag because of a specific time that they want to, put her in the game. So, for example, like Han Solo, how many different Hans will they have? They can use different timeline-based...
Where's my Carbonite Han? I want my Carbonite Han.
But doesn't mean that they're going to make that other alternate timeline character. Maybe if it's in high demand or it's going to make money, but they don't have to make another Visasmar. But they could make a Jedi version.
Where's my wielding Luke's lightsaber Han from? When he cuts open the Wampa. Let's see a Han with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we have a Wampa in the
give us
game.
a Han
I want a
lightsaber.
Tauntaun in the game. I want the Tauntaun to be the counter to Wampa. Come on, man.
Yeah,
But
just like
I bring that up just because I
Tauntaun
think it's
one-shot.
interesting, because if they decide to give them the Jedi tags, which I personally don't mind, it's a moot point to me. But if they do give them the tags, then that really gives Jedi the chance to come back into meta, because
Right.
Jedi pretty much haven't been meta since Qui-Gon Jinn Zeta.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
well, it's either they give it the Jedi tag or they just don't at all, and they give it like an Old Republic version of a tag, and then they just
that's
discredit
another thing
that.
I'm thinking. Are they going to make
Or both.
Old Republic a tag now?
It's possible, but you can't use Old Republic as a tag. You think they could they'll do that?
They bring it. This year really is an Old Republic year. You have Sith Marauder, Atreus, Scion. You already had Sith Assassin, Trooper, and Nihilus in the game. They're all Old Republic.
Plus,
you have these 5 new
47.
tunes, HK. They gave
Yeah.
Rogue One a tag.
Yeah.
That's true.
So why not?
Actually, they gave Rogue One.
Possible.
It's possible that this new team, these 5 that are coming out, could be a full-fledged Old Republic team. I know a lot of people on the forums think that this is showing Revan probably sometime soon.
Oh, there's no doubt. I will say I'm disappointed that we don't see Juhani or Karth, and I would have probably preferred especially probably Karth over Zalbar, but
Well, Karth is more important when it comes to the story, I would say. Yeah, I know Zalbar had his old Ewok planet thing,
Keep my
but
mind,
Karth was there from the
Canderous?
beginning, right?
Canderous too. But it would be interesting if they made a Wookiee faction.
Wookiee faction
Well,
with
we don't
2
have enough.
Chewbacca's and Zalbar.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
they could give us
Chewbacca's mom is in the story.
Tarful. They could give us Tarful.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for pod racing Anakin.
But, I mean-
that he can one-shot the enemy team with the skill. Now this is pod racing.
He'll probably just he'll probably just boost droids, have a droid leadership or
I'm
something.
still waiting
I don't know.
for young Obi-Wan
Secret
episode 1.
Oh,
You know what
I
I'm
want an
waiting
episode
for?
with 3
I'm
Obi-Wan.
waiting for them to give Plo Koon the proper ability he needs. Come on, Electric Judgment.
I thought it's called Force Judgment.
It's Force Judgment or Electric Judgment. It's an
It's an electric.
thing.
It's a yellow Force lightning. Basically, it's like a neutral one.
Yeah, it's
and,
the do-gooder
it-
lightning.
It doesn't actually use the dark side, but the Jedi Council was like, "Whoa, this looks like it's kind of aggressive." They were kind of wary about it.
Yeah,
but
Plo
yeah,
Koon's
I
just
think
sitting
it's
there
called
kind of like,
Force Judgment.
no thanks, I'm good. I'm
Well,
going to do it my way.
they kind of use something like they're trying to do something with that. Like when they first designed him, his AOE
Yeah, it's
is
Force
supposed to be
Judgment.
something like that. Yeah, that is the ability, but it doesn't shoot lightning. This
No,
is
he just-
Palpatine. Sorry, they might as well just add the same graphic as what Palpatine does for AOE shock, and just change it to a yellow color. I don't know. That's so easy to do.
I think they should just take
Well,
the
you know what else
either
they should do?
Dooku animation or the Sith Assassin animation. And
Well,
just,
they should also just. If you look at some of the newer Jedi, especially Jedi Training Rey and even Visas, all of the old Jedi, they just swing their lightsaber and not that slashing downward.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah,
bit
not
of
that
a little
basic
bit of an
stock.
angle. It's
from the
can you
right
make
shoulder.
That's kind of a graphic thing that just be kind of a quality life nice thing is give the Jedi a little more animation with their lightsabers instead of just this boring slash.
Well, do you see how Scion does it? That's insane.
Yeah.
It's behind the back. He's twirling like a ninja. They put a lot of effort into that.
and then there's my boy
but
Nihilus who's
kudos
just
to-
flinging his blade around.
Yeah.
kudos to Capital Games for Scions. That's really
But
I
you have
really
to
like
take into account
Scion's
experience.
animations. They're pretty nice in this game, especially his break will animation. That special, I really like that one.
Yeah, you have to consider like when they made these characters, how
Yeah.
experienced they were at the time. So
Yeah.
they were kind of like these are kind of like stock animations, I think. And so like they weren't really sure what to do and how to do it. So like they all just sort of gave these Jedi that basic downward slash.
I think the reason they did it
You know?
is because early on in that game, I mean, even to this day, but to a lesser extent, this being a mobile game, you never know when everyone's just going to be like, I'm done with this, moving on to the next thing,
True, sure.
All things considered, it's impressive that for, it'll be year 3 in November this year, the game going on. So
longevity, yeah.
This is pretty strong,
Just saying that would
Mobile
be
game.
kind of a nice quality of life if
No,
update is,
definitely.
just a little more animations.
I
Jedi.
definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's like a visual thing though. It doesn't really impact the game that much. It's just more like aesthetically pleasing. I think they're doing a good job overall.
Like half the battle.
Well, I guess you're right. I guess we want to be visually pleased, right? I think there are many criteria when it comes to this game. Like it's more or less like a collection thing. You get that Pokemon craze inside you. You're like, oh, gotta collect them all.
It's
I gotta boost my favorite characters.
I don't have that
basically
whatsoever.
like that. I don't have that either, but I mean, there's a guy in my
I will never
guild,
try to
Jerry.
unlock Bodhi.
Jerry does that. Yeah, he's always like collecting, and he'll just have like Gear 8 all across the board tunes, and that's just his style. And that's okay. I mean, do what you need to do, I guess, but make sure you have your your meta arena team and maybe some viable Sith raid teams, right? Yeah, but I'm really happy about the mod management. Like, if you look at that, I think it's a great idea.
I'm
Over
wary.
7
I'm
dot
wary
mods.
of certain parts.
Well, I'd rather invest credits than have to reinvest my energy into RNG to get new 7 dot mods. That it took me forever.
No. I'm definitely
to get the
glad
other ones.
that they're not bringing in 7 dot mods. The thing that I'm worried about is the splicing, because they're saying it's going to require gear that's only going to drop in mod battles, which I haven't done mod battles in a while, if I'm honest. I'm trying to work towards that, Vet
is
Han,
it
Vet
mod
Chewbacca
battles,
life.
or is it like the mod battles or the mod challenges?
I think it's mod challenge.
I think it's. I don't know if it's challenges or battles. If it was battles, I would just.
I think they're adding more challenges. I thought that's what it was, or an extension to the challenges.
Well, I think that
what
they're doing is they're reworking stats so that speed isn't the number one thing, even though they said that they're not going to change speed stats, so speed's still going to be number one after this.
I'm sure it's still
I'm never
important.
going to use a critical avoidance arrow over a speed arrow. Let's be real here. I might.
It depends on if they change it.
Maybe on a tank like a General Kenobi or a Baze.
General Kenobi, I'm going to run a quad protection, though. I'm going to have that protection circle, protection cross, protection triangle, protection arrow.
Hey, don't hate my Kenobi as over 100,000 protection.
I don't know what my Kenobi's sitting at gear 11, but I have at least 3 protection-based mods on him. Here, let's see, just for giggles, what protection and health my GK is at. Granted, he's also at 6 stars, I got that.
6 stars, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
so
I have a max
Revan,
GK, but he's not as good as Revan's.
You may have a protection of how much, you said? Around 1,000 or 100,000?
Mine is over 100,000.
Yeah, I'm only at 51,000 protection.
Believe it or not, that 1-star level will make a huge dramatic difference.
Oh, it always does.
Actually, my GK isn't that impressive. Your GK is probably better than mine, and mine's maxed.
Well,
he doesn't have a lot of
that irritated
good
me
mods.
a lot was, so I probably started doing heroic AAT pretty much when I came into the Alliance in, what was it, November of last year. So,
Sure.
when I finally unlocked General Kenobi, and I finally, get him geared up, he's not meta
The
anymore.
Sith raid. Yeah, and the Sith raid is all the new shebang and what everyone is all excited about.
Well, no, I mean, you pretty much can't. If you run GK now in Arena, you're pretty much a target for, most Sith-based teams.
He's probably most viable under the Rex teams, but he can also work on the Jedi training raid teams. But yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to run GK and Scion together, but that just doesn't work. Team-wise. So, I'm happy I have him. He's there for territory battles and all that good jazz.
And
I'm definitely not disappointed, because I'm sure, especially if the two Jedi, Bastila and Jolie, if they come in and they really change things up under this Grandmaster Yoda, I'm sure GK's going to be there, because you only really have two Jedi tanks. You either use Old Ben or you use GK. You got to pick
both.
a Kenobi.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, I mean, can you imagine though if you were able to run a double Kenobi tank Jedi team, Grandmaster?
Well, it depends on DPS. If your DPS is enough with the other characters, you can do it. But the problem is Jedi lack DPS.
I've seen that under Grandmaster Yoda lead with Ezra, Hermit Yoda.
Oh, Ezra
can run the dual
out
Kenobis.
DPS.
Yeah,
it is gross amount of DPS for Ezra, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you use the Grandmaster's training with Yoda and Ezra, you can start putting together significant damage. Yeah. And the two Kenobis will keep them alive while they go to town.
Yeah.
So it is viable.
Even Jedi Knight Anakin, his basic, it's not going to be doing that much damage, but I think on his AoE I saw in one video, he's hitting everyone for around 17,000 AoE, which, that's pretty good, that's on the level of, Snow Trooper, and Snow Trooper's known for having ridiculously high AoE damage, so...
Jedi Knight Anakin is really a Zeta, and Jedi Knight Anakin is really a Zeta and another unique, away from being one of the better tunes in the game.
See, I don't know if they're going to do that. On one hand, I do, because, you have Commander Luke Skywalker, Grandmaster Yoda, Jedi Training Rey, and Jedi Knight Anakin, who all have that galactic hero tag for heroic Sith Raid. So, Yoda just got made better with that tag. CLS is good
still really
in the raid for one team. And then...
Jedi Training
Rey is good for multiple phases, so maybe they'll make him better. I think that he's really just gonna be with probably Grandmaster Yoda Phase 1. I know that they're able to do really well in that phase, but who knows? Maybe he'll get another rework. But they said they weren't doing Jedi reworks anytime soon.
They say a lot of stuff, though. That's the thing with Capital Games. You have to take everything they say with a grain of salt, because they'll say something is not coming, and then they'll release it shortly afterwards.
Gear 12.
They just can't release it, if they're going to release it or not until it comes, unless they get the clear.
If people suspect they're doing something, they're not going to capitalize money-wise if everyone is preparing for them to do that. So they say, no, we're not doing that, so that they can try and blindside everyone when they do it.
I'm going to put a bit of faith in them with this one, because if you remember back in, January, early February, before they released or announced all the, Sith content that was coming, everyone thought it was Revan. Everyone was convinced it was Revan, and, they sent out that email saying, it's not Revan, it's not going to be Revan, Revan's not coming out now. They didn't say, never. So, I will trust them when they say,
I would say
that
that the tunes that they announced would say that they're not doing Jedi at this time, because I'd say that with these tunes you can imagine that probably by October, at the latest December, we'll be seeing Revan.
We'll
Like at
see.
this point, I would say it's inevitable, and like the clock has started, like the countdown.
I
So
think
when
I
we
think
see him,
that this is honestly gonna be like veterans. You know, they released
Yeah,
veteran
probably.
Han, veteran Chewbacca. Because you look at it, you know, you have our first heroic journey that was CLS, and
Mhm.
he pretty much everyone had the tunes required for CLS. I didn't because they brought in CLS like a month and a half, 2 months after I came to play the game, so I didn't get them first time around. But a lot of people did because you know those were old characters and whatnot.
the
JTR,
only
on the
one
other
that
hand,
had
was
really been
harder.
new was R2. R2 was really the only new
Yeah,
one,
he
and
was the
you
only
needed
new one,
Empire to
but
get him.
they had him at least one or two times,
Yeah,
a
they
few
had
times
him
before.
twice.
And
Yeah, they
honestly,
had him twice, and it was Empire, so everyone had Empire
yeah,
to
so
get R2.
it wasn't that hard to get him. But then you have JTR, and you were required to have the smugglers. God knows why you needed the smugglers.
Well,
But
and you also needed BB-8, who had only been released in around September,
and you
so that was
needed
only about 3 months before.
full first order, which you know I'm
At the
still.
time, wasn't as quality a team as they are now.
I mean, yeah, they're better now for sure, but I mean, I'm still working on my first order. I
I'm
just
not.
got BB-8 this last time, 5 stars. He's still at gray gear and level 1. I just have not had the time to work on him recently. I know I should be. I know everyone's going to be upset. You got to work on your BB-8, but you know, I've been enjoying myself too much.
Once you get him 7-star, my first order, I had everyone 7-star fast. My first order stormtrooper were like gear 7. My Kylo was gear 9. My first order officer, I think, was
All
gear
my guys are
10.
around gear 8
And my
or
first
gear
order
10.
TIE pilot was like gear 12. And I got BB-8 7-star with really not a whole lot of difficulty after I moved over some of my arena mods. So I mean, you can gear some of the better ones that you'll use elsewhere, but you don't have to like unload a ton of gear to get BB-8 7-star.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to use Phasma. Luckily, I have Kylo Ren unmasked 7 stars, so he'll be the leader. But
He's
since
very
they
good.
put Scion on that First Order Stormtrooper node, I haven't been farming him because I've been farming, you know, Shore Trooper, First Order TIE Pilot. I'm at 50 out of 100 shards with him. So kind of upset. I wanted to use First Order Stormtrooper in there, but looks like I'm gonna have to use Phasma instead. But that's whatever. You know, they'll all be gear 10 or 9, which I'm sure will be enough. Under
It should be enough.
Yeah, under Kylo Ren's thing there.
His
What
leadership.
about
is
you,
power.
Mikey? We all know you want your Jedi meta. Think if Jedi
Absolutely.
Luke's coming anytime soon?
Well, I don't know about Jedi Luke. I feel like he's a wild card for when they have nothing coming up. Possibly he could be because they don't have another movie coming for a while. So it's either sometime in a lull before they drop the movie or after they drop the movie.
Now, which is coming first, Revan or Jedi Luke?
The way that things are looking with these new characters, I would say Revan before Jedi Luke.
Yeah, I would say
agree.
Revan undoubtedly.
I think they're
release
using
of
this
these new
period
characters.
before
the movie to do all the KoToR stuff, to get people just like in the game so pumped, and then all of a sudden the movie comes out and then they can go off of that. And then when they're really drawing out, then all of a sudden Jedi Luke comes into the game. That's my theory.
It does make one wonder if Disney's going to make the Knights of the Old Republic stuff canon as the game releases all of these tunes, and they do have to get permission to put these tunes in the game. So maybe speculation that they're bringing that back to canon. Me personally, I prefer they didn't. I just would prefer my Legends stuff left alone.
I don't know.
And Disney gets their own thing, but it does cause for a little speculation there.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited though. Like, I'm not a big dark side player. This has been a struggle for me, this meta, and maybe with the new Jedi releases, basically I can combat the Sith, and maybe we'll actually have some true balance to the Force. Because Sith right now, there's never been a team ever, I think, this strong compared to the rest. It's very strong.
It's like a purge. It's like another Jedi purge.
It's really like, I mean, there's been metas and there's been strong teams, but this one is absolutely insane when it comes to synergy, power, strength, everything, like shutting the other team down, speed. It's quite powerful. So if they do introduce these characters, it'll be strong. I hope.
Yeah. Well, then it's interesting you say how strong the Sith are together, because I just unlocked Traya today. I'm one droid collar from Gear 11. It won't drop, but so I put her in arena and was playing around with her, and I went up against Commander Luke team, and they were beating me up. They took out my Thrawn and my Nihilus. I was down to Palpatine, Scion, and Traya, and once I was able to isolate his General Kenobi with my Traya, my team just went lights out. And it was 5-on-3. And I still just destroyed the other team. So the Sith right now,
they're pretty
they're almost unstoppable as far as synergy. It's not like anything we've really seen before.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say...
I could compare it to is the droids of old.
Yeah. I'm going to say something sacrilegious to you guys. I have Scion, but he's just level 1. I haven't even touched him.
How could you?
But
you betray?
Well, he's too ugly for me. I'm just kidding.
Hey, come on. That's what peak performance looks like. That's what peak performance looks like, man.
I guess, man. I guess if you work out at the gym too hard, you look like that. But, I mean, you know what? I do have a G12 Darth Nihilus, maxed out Darth Nihilus, so I guess I have some Sith in me, unfortunately.
So you know what, guys? I hate to say this, but we are all out of time for today.
No problem.
So I hope everyone enjoyed this first episode of the Exchange Podcast. We're hoping to make it a weekly thing, so we'll get this out, and then hopefully next week we'll come back again and bring up some new topics.
Be sure to leave a like and leave any comments to let us know if there's any topics you'd like us to cover.
Yeah, feel free to add any questions too, guys, because we will cover some in-guild, questions or in-alliance questions.
As well as just games in general, and maybe even, do some roster reviews somewhere down the line.
Yeah. All right. Well,
sure.
I'm Chowder's Thickness. I'm signing off. See you guys later.
Revan.
And I'm Mike Skydancer. So it's a pleasure, guys.
All right. We'll talk to you all later. Enjoy.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.